South African deployment of soldiers to DRC is out of order. It must be withdrawn with immediate effect. Not that South Africa is not supposed to deploy in DRC. We're supposed to deploy in DRC and be in the forefront. We just don't have the army. Our army can't look after cabbages. I can't hire them in my farm to go and look after cabbages. We just don't have the army.
9 South African soldiers are dead. Peace remains elusive, and the DRC is still bleeding. Behind this strategy lies a battle for minerals and power, with Kagame and Tshisekedi at the center of it all. Is the DRC a victim of global greed and betrayal? Let's dive into the harsh realities. Welcome to Inkari, It's Time. I'm Kondos, and today we are talking about a devastating reality: the loss of 9 SANDF soldiers in the DRC. While South Africa sends its troops to fight for peace, the DRC remains entangled in a 30-year tragedy fueled by greed, minerals, and power struggles. What's really going on, and why are South African soldiers sent into this dangerous situation without adequate support? Let's unpack the layers of this conflict and what it means for Africa's future.
The ANC has collapsed the army. That's why in the manifesto of the EFF we say we will finance the army and make sure that it's properly trained and the necessary equipment needed for the success of the army is provided. The army has collapsed. Where is the army? It's not there. There's no army. So they are sent there to be killed because they are not properly trained. They must come back home, and we must stop with any military deployment until we are fit and proper. Just take a walk and look at a South African soldier walking. You see a demoralized man who's carrying a rifle, and you see that rifle is heavy on him. He's not even fit to carry that rifle. They killed it. So Cyril Ramaphosa wants to kill our children in DRC. Those rebels, DRC, they are well equipped. Who goes to a base of an army if you know that thing is an army and is powerful? You go to the base once you have undermined them. Base. That's why all of the army in the battlefield, when things are bad, they are called to retreat to the base, because that's where you can regroup and attack. No, they come to a base. That's how weak you are. They come to your base and finish you off in your base. We are undermined to that level, and it's not for the first time. We were beaten in Central African Republic, also in the base. We are attacked in the base. What kind of an army is this one that get easily attacked in a base? If you are saying you've got the army, and with so much money being used to go and finance the ANC election campaign, because that's what they are doing. They are sending those soldiers there. The last time, you remember, the soldiers SG were complaining that they are deployed, was it July unrest or something? They didn't have food. They didn't have food. The soldiers did not have food. So who's going to fight with an empty stomach? How are you going to shoot that rifle with an empty stomach? They are not being fed. The situation has deteriorated. How do you have a base of the army in Northern Cape burning down without the army having the capacity to extinguish the fire itself? What if it was another country burning our army, our army base. How is there? We're not going to defend ourselves.
The tragedy of peacekeeping. Last week, 9 South African National Defence Force soldiers lost their lives in the DRC while on a peacekeeping mission. Despite their bravery, they were sent into a conflict zone with inadequate resources and support, raising serious questions about South Africa's commitment to its own soldiers.
In other words, and God forbid, if we get invaded, do we actually have an SANDF that is capable and sufficiently resourced to defend and protect the Republic?
And I can promise you that you can sleep peacefully. We will be able to defend the country. We have the capacity.
Without enough air support, without enough ships?
Exactly. With what we have, we're confident that we'll not be attacked and then find ourselves on the field. So we have enough capacity to sustain that which was supposed, but we're saying we would wish to have more capacity to even do more. But in terms of just basic sustenance, we can promise all South Africans we're capable of doing it.
The DRC conflict, a 30-year nightmare. The Democratic Republic of Congo has been a battleground for over 3 decades, with over 7 million lives lost. President Paul Kagame of Rwanda has been accused of exploiting the DRC's natural resources, turning the region into an economic pipeline for his country. Meanwhile, Tshisekedi, the DRC president, faces accusations of harboring anti-Tutsi groups and failing to secure his nation.
Before you blame Rwanda on the issue of the M23 in the Democratic Republic of Congo, I want to give you a small background about exactly what is happening in the eastern part of the Congo. How did it all start? Because all you hear is that Rwanda is supporting M23 rebels, the DRC government is fighting against the M23 rebels to take the eastern region of the Democratic Republic of Congo. That's what you hear in the news every day. I want to tell you exactly what's happening there. Let's go back to where it's all started. During the infamous Berlin Conference in Europe, when Europeans were dividing Africa amongst themselves, the Belgians took Congo, the Germans took Rwanda, Germans took Tanzania as well, and the English took Uganda, carving out this area amongst themselves as Europeans. They didn't care which tribes they were cutting in between. Most tribes in Africa have been cut in between. At the borders of most African countries, you find that the same tribe is found on each side of the border. It is very common across Africa because the Europeans did not care how they are dividing these tribes. All they did is just, you're taking this, we're taking this, you're taking this, we're taking this. So that's how they divided the DR Congo, Rwanda, Uganda, Burundi, Tanzania, around that area. And the Tutsi tribe ended up having its territory divided between 2 countries, Rwanda and the then Zaire, which is today's Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, why are the M23 rebels fighting against the Democratic Republic of Congo forces and the United Nations in the eastern part of the Republic of Congo? And who are the M23? The M23 rebels are a rebel group that was formed by the Tutsis themselves to defend their territory, which is the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, to defend against who? Against the Democratic Republic of Congo government, which has been trying to take over their land, the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo, for decades now. You might be wondering how a group of people might be trying to defend themselves against their own government in their own country. Yes, that's the Democratic Republic of Congo. There is no rule of law. Everybody for himself. If you are weak, you are displaced. And this is what happens. Countries like the United States, China, and Russia have gone to the Democratic Republic of Congo, have chosen territories that they want to take over, and they've armed tribes that live there to fight off some tribes, so weaker tribes are taken over. So every tribe in the Congo DRC has to arm itself to the teeth. Those who have more arms and stronger, they take more territory. Government is in on it. The United States, the EU, they use the United Nations troops as cover for gang warfare that is going on in the DRC. There's no government in the DRC. They call themselves government, yes, because they run things from Kinshasa. But in actual fact, they are a gang that represents the United States, France, and others to loot the DRC. And what do? The Democratic Republic of Congo forces themselves will go out there and displace their own people off their land and allow American, British, and Belgian and French companies to be mining on those lands while the indigenous people on those lands have been displaced into refugee camps. Some have been displaced into other countries. Generations are born outside the Congo because they can't go back. They've been displaced and their lands are being guarded by the gun. Under the watch of the Democratic Republic of Congo government. This is why the Tutsis in the eastern part of the Congo armed themselves, starting with the Banyamulenge, now with the M23. Because if you don't arm yourself in the DRC as a tribe, you are finished, especially if you have rich land like the eastern part of the DRC that belongs to the Tutsis. So the M23 rebels had to arm themselves to fight to defend their territory. The eastern part of Congo is rich with uranium, lithium, and other semiconductor minerals that are used to make phones and drones and everything. So now, the world is moving towards drones and phones, these smartphones and everything, and electric car batteries and everything. And these minerals are in abundance in the eastern part of the Congo. Are you following me? So, government forces are fighting to take the eastern part of the Congo away from the Tutsis. The Democratic Republic of Congo government is not being very honest. The truth is, they are fighting to take away the eastern part of the Congo so that the United States and other countries can enjoy exploiting those minerals in the eastern part of Congo after displacing the people, the Tutsis, the rightful owners of the eastern part of the Congo. Now, how does Rwanda come in? Follow me now. Rwanda comes in because there is a Tutsi government in Rwanda. And they are one people, by the way. They are just divided by the borders. They speak one language. They have one culture. They have the same religion. So they went to Rwanda and asked for help from Rwanda. So what does Rwanda do? They are countrymen. They are clansmen. Can they let them down? No. Because even when they are mining their own land as Tutsis in the eastern part of the Republic of Congo, they are not going to export their minerals that they are mining from there through Kinshasa or through other places. They have to find safer routes that they trust. So where are the safer routes to get the minerals out? It's Rwanda and Uganda. Do you understand what's going on here? So they fostered a relationship with Rwanda. Now, what does Rwanda benefit? From the exports, of course. One. Number two, after the genocide in Rwanda, it was a fight between the Hutus and the Tutsis. The Hutu tribe also is found in Democratic Republic of Congo, and it was divided in half by the Europeans. It is also found in the Democratic Republic of Congo, by the way. This is how complicated this whole thing is. So now, the Hutus, after being defeated in Rwanda, they escaped to the DRC. So when they escaped to the DRC, they were regrouping there to come and overthrow the government by force in Rwanda. So I said, how does the Rwandan government benefit from this scenario? Number one, I said, exportation through Rwanda of minerals. Number two, national security of the Rwandan government, the Rwandan people, has to be guaranteed. How? Because the Hutus could regroup and attack Rwanda again. So how do they guarantee national security as Rwanda? They have to keep those Hutus in the DRC in check. So how does Rwanda do that? They use their clansmen, the Tutsis that are found in the DRC, to keep the Hutus in the DRC in check. Do you see there? So that's the second way that Rwanda is benefiting from the relationship that it has with the Tutsis that are found in the DRC. Now, the DRC government is not being honest because they are trying to push the Tutsis out of the eastern part of the Congo, saying they have to go back to Rwanda. Where do they go back to? The eastern part of the Republic of Congo is their land. It is their land. You cannot expel a people and leave their land. The DRC government is not being honest. What they want is the minerals, the uraniums and the lithiums and other semiconductor minerals that are found in the eastern part of the Congo, the land that belongs to Tutsis. So they want to expel the Tutsis from there to Rwanda. You cannot, because these people is their land. The Europeans just divided it and said this is Congo, this is Rwanda. So the DRC government, by not being honest on this issue, is complicating things. And the United Nations is coming in an already chaotic situation. But everybody knows the United Nations is the United States. So the United States has interest in the eastern part of the Republic of Congo because it is rich with semiconductors, which are important for nuclear arms production, drones, and all these phones and car batteries and airplanes and everything in the eastern part of the Congo. That's why the war is concentrated on the eastern part of the Congo, because the United States and its allies are fighting to push the Tutsis off their land, because their land is rich with minerals that are used in making of semiconductors, drones, and nuclear weapons. This is why they are fighting hard.
Kagame and the DRC minerals. Kagame's role in the DRC conflict cannot be ignored. For years, Rwanda has been accused of backing militias to control the DRC minerals-rich regions, benefiting from the chaos while millions suffer. Is Kagame truly a vampire, as some describe him, feeding off the blood of the Congolese people? Tshisekedi's failures. On the other side, Tshisekedi has admitted that the DRC supports anti-Tutsi groups, fueling the cycle of violence. With internal instability and external aggression, the DRC remains a hostage to its own leaders and foreign exploiters. The bigger picture, Africa's betrayal. At the heart of this tragedy is Africa's failure to protect its resources and people. The global demand for minerals drives this conflict, with multinational corporations and corrupt leaders profiting from the chaos. Meanwhile, peacekeeping missions like the SNDFs are underfunded and overstretched, leaving soldiers and civilians vulnerable. The death of SNDF soldiers are not just a tragedy for South Africa. They are a wake-up call for the entire continent. The DRC's suffering reflects the broader failure of African leaders to prioritize peace, unity, and justice over power and greed. Kagame and Tshisekedi may sit at the center of this conflict, but the world's eyes must also turn to the corporations and governments that profit from the DRC's blood-soaked minerals. What do you think? Should South Africa pull out of the DRC? Or is it our responsibility to help bring peace to the region?
Our mission in the DRC, it's as a consequence of Resolution 2098 of the United Nations, where member states in the continent are expected to contribute soldiers for peacekeeping mission in the DRC as an effort to bring stability in the SADC region, because we talk of millions and multitude of people in the DRC, and once they can run away and flee out of their country, there will be a serious influx in other countries in the region, and South Africa equally would suffer. A high number of DRC people will be running away from the war. So it's in our interest to contribute to that peace effort and also contribute to the agreement as concluded by the SADC.
And we've been doing the contribution for some time now, but the war doesn't seem to be resolved. The conflict in the eastern DRC, I mean, just this recent let's say escalation in Goma, which houses about some million people, we are told, I mean, has really grabbed international headlines. Do you think it's been worth it? worthwhile for South African troops to be part of the missions?
It's worth it in the sense that any destabilization of the DRC can create instability in the whole region. You can imagine how many, over 80 million DRC population, if it was to run away from a war. Johannesburg and Cape Town is very small. So it's in our interest to get peace in that part of the continent. It's in our interest also as Africans to move forward. We can't be victims forever. From colonization to self-inflicted pain now, it cannot be all.
Okay. Do you know, as Parliament at the moment, the executive is planning to send more troops to the DRC to bolster the team that is there? We saw some reports saying that parts of the contingent of South African troops who are part of that peacekeeping mission are surrounded near Goma, which the rebels, yesterday morning on air, we got a story that they are claiming that they've now taken over Goma. Do you know if more troops are being sent there?
How do we hold African leaders accountable for the exploitation and betrayal of their people? Let's discuss in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Inkare. It's time for more insights into South Africa's political and social realities. Together, we can navigate life with purpose and fight for a better future. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Stay informed and stay empowered. Take care.